It's monthly Mormon Mondays. It's time for the secret handshake. Tune in and reach through the veil. It's time for monthly Mormon Monday.
Another episode of Monthly Mormon Monday, and you might be thinking to yourself, but it's Wednesday. But I would say time is just a construct. So why are you being limited to just simple human labels on things?
Can't believe you just assumed my day of the week.
We got Heidi Love here, Paranoid American here, and then we've got a special guest, Ben McClintock, who is, I understand you are a member of the Skull and Bones currently, are you not, sir?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I just laid in the coffin last night.
Okay.
Oh boy.
What did you confess to? And do you guys actually eat human pineal glands, or is that just the rumor?
Yummy. Ew.
Well, tell us how we're going to get from Mormons to Skull and Bones, aside from the usual route.
From the usual route.
The usual route's through Hawaii, is it not?
Oh well. You got a point there. The other
Well,
BYU.
Utah is very LDS and very Mormon, and there is Anthony Sutton wrote a book called America's Secret Establishment, and in that book he said that Yale was contained the only chapter of Skull and Bones. And as good of a researcher as he is, or was, I should say, he was wrong. And there's a second chapter of Skull and Bones. And I'm not going to say that there's only two because I'm not going to make the same mistake, but it's the only two I'm aware of is at Yale and at the University of Utah. And so Utah being all things Mormon, there's the beginning of the Mormon connection between Skull and Bones and the title of the program.
Why do you think that Sutton missed that? Because that's huge. I couldn't even believe it the last time when Heidi brought it up on this show, and now I'm wondering, just like you just mentioned, well, you don't want to say that there's only two because you don't want to get caught being wrong about it. How many could there be? I mean, I thought there was just one. So now if I'm finding out there's two, who's to say there isn't 10 or 20 or 50?
Sure. Yeah. Every major university, could have their own chapter. I've tried to do some digging and say, is there any over at Harvard, or is there any over at the, University of California, whatever. And I haven't been able to find one as of yet. But that doesn't, and I think, to give Anthony Sutton the benefit of the doubt, I mean, we are at a totally different age than we were when he wrote that book, where as, the internet was, it would scream at you every time that you got on. I think if it even was available to the average person when he wrote the book, I can't remember exactly the publication date, but so trying to do an internet, search would have been ridiculous. Two, can you imagine trying to go to every single university in the country and say, hey, where's all your Skull and Bones material? I mean, what kind of response are you going to get there? And because the only reason he got the stuff from Yale it was leaked to him. Somebody gave him a bunch of files. And so he was dealing with things that we don't have nowadays, where he's got to dig through actual physical paper, not just go, just do some typing on the Googles and, find. I did more than that as well, but that was a beginning, was being able to say, okay, I found online, there's this thing. And then I was able to go and find physical things at the university itself that they don't have digitized. And then that led to other books that had read a print but were thankfully digitized. And then that also led to doing reports on it, then led to other people that were approached to be members of Skull and Bones at the University of Utah, and then them getting me the physical evidence, different they sent me, it's in my book Invasion, and I scanned the envelope where they've got it's the wax seal of Skull and Bones, and it's within it is the initiation letter inviting them to become a member.
there's something about Mormons that makes them eligible to have their own chapter of Skull and Bones. And let me just read ahead a little bit, maybe answer part of that question. Because Skull and Bones is supposed to be, if you get tapped into Skull and Bones, you usually either go into finance, government, or intelligence. So are those the three things that you would get tapped in the Hawaiian Skull and Bones?
If there was Hawaii,
There's
if there
no
was,
Hawaii.
I don't know. I think it's more than that. I think it's wherever they want influence, because they've got a strong influence in education as well as religion. And so it's their influence, their aim for influence is in where society is influenced. And so I would say that's media, academia, religion, politics.
And I say Hawaiian at a jest. That to me, Hawaii is like the second Salt Lake.
True. It is true. Yeah. Well, and I did find one thing when I was searching around, but it was in Chicago. They say it shut down, but Alan Snake is out of Chicago, and they say it shut down. So kind of interesting, little on the nose there with Alan Key and Scroll and Key and Alan
Wolf's
Snake.
Head. So I mean, even Yale has multiple of these secret societies.
You mentioned Harvard before. I think one of theirs is like the Porcelain Club, which is a pig is their mascot, and the Crimson Tide had a similar. Because I think when Yale Skull and Bones originally got exposed, it was twice through their own school newspaper, and it was like an actual student that broke in. I think this is like early 1900s was the very first one, and there was another one in like the 50s or the 60s, and I think very similar happened. Crimson Tide, they had a break in with the Porcelain Club. There was kind of this early, I think they maybe stopped in like the 70s or 80s. People just didn't think it was as cool to break into the secret societies on campus anymore. And it's funny, maybe this Mormon Skull and Bones is going to take on the mantle, because the last I looked, in the early 2000s, I think mid like 2010s, Skull and Bones at Yale started to become co-ed, and they just had photos, and it literally just looked like any other co-ed fraternity you'd ever see anywhere. It didn't look like it had the same gravitas as when like Prescott Bush was tapping you.
I don't think anything, looks as gravitas as it did back in, the 30s, 40s, and 50s. But maybe that's just me being old-fashioned. But I also think what also happened was that because the school newspapers, as well as the yearbooks, would publish at both Yale and the University of Utah the memberships, some little blurbs. They'd have articles in the school newspaper about them, and both Yale and University of Utah up until basically the 70s. And then both universities, roughly about the same time, go completely silent on those clubs. And so I don't know if, like, it was still secret what they were doing, but they would still talk about it and list who their new members were. And so that's a lot of the research we've been able to do, is to go through go to the university archives and go through and look at the lists of members and throughout the years that were published up until the 70s, and then go back and say, oh, what did this guy do, and what did this guy go do, and it's always in these powerful positions.
Heidi, you've mentioned a few times that Mormons love vampires and they love Harry Potter. So I guess, does getting inside of a coffin as part of initiation ritual, would that just be natural for a Mormon? Would they be like, ooh, this is fun? They wouldn't be creeped out by that?
Well, I mean, I think that if you're in a brotherhood and you're at that level, of course, that's a different level, right? Like, of course, you're going to do what you got to do most of the time. I mean, but he's had an instance even that he can talk about where somebody went crazy from this. So I don't think it's just lighthearted fun. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wild.
Yeah.
Oh, because it just been finals week too, right? They were just like studying too hard.
Right.
Well, what's
love
the
all
story?
these
Who
people
went crazy?
It's crazy.
What did they do? How did they go crazy?
Well, they don't list the exact reason, but what the newspaper reports come out was that this individual was causing all kinds of damage in downtown Provo, which is about 45 minutes away from Salt Lake City. And the head of the university calls up the chief of police and says, hey, don't cause an issue. We'll take care of any cost involved in taking care of the damages this guy does. And then a member of the senior society, Owl and Key, he went down and bailed the guy out. And so just backing up a little bit, Owl and Key and Skull and Bones are the same organization. They're just different levels of it. And so the Owl and Key members, they pick who the Skull and Bones initiates are going to be, and then they choose what the initiation is going to be for that year. In addition to the things that have to be done every year, they kind of mix things up a little bit in addition to that every single year. And it's Owl and Key that is involved in that. And so the thing is with these organizations, they have to have support from faculty. And in this case, we know that Skull and Bones at the University of Utah had the support of the head of the university. And this is completely different than you see with any other frat, right? So if you got some college fraternity and they're getting drunk and causing trouble downtown, I guarantee you they're going to go to jail, or they're going to, for public drunkenness, they're going to be charged and fined for all the damages they did. But because this was Skull and Bones, the head of the university calls up the cops and says, hey, let this guy out. We'll take care of it.
Or else. And and the way that you were describing that does that mean that Scroll and Key is above Skull and Bones?
Like, so Skull and Key's over at Yale. I don't know its connection with Skull and Bones, but at the University of Utah, Owl and Key is the senior organization to Skull and Bones.
So it's not lateral. It's that they actually sit above because they decide who gets invited in. And does that mean that at a certain point, if you prove your worth, you graduate into Owl and Key from Skull and Bones? Or are there other ways to get into Owl and Key that don't go through Skull and Bones?
So that's up for debate of if you can go straight into Owl and Key. But essentially, the only people that can go into Owl and Key are Skull and Bones. The former president of the LDS Church was a member of Owl and Key. We know that it's in the yearbook. And in his autobiography, he claims that he was a member of Skull and Bones as well. But there are others that say, well, it's not in the yearbook, so he never was. And so some people suspect that he was just, piggybacked or leapfrogged right straight to the top. But his own yearbook says that he was a member of both.
Do you know if there's
and that's the only way that I'm aware of that you can get into Owl and Key.
Is there any
more exclusive, I should say?
The group of Owl and Key, Skull and Bones, and Bohemian Grove? Do you know, or are there any Mormon groups within Bohemian Grove? Do they have like their own camp? Do you know of?
That I'm aware of members of the church that have gone to the Bohemian Grove and the Bohemian Club, but I'm not aware of a specific camp like they have for artists and politicians and that kind of a thing. I'm not aware of that.
Okay, right, and yeah, good point out. So to clarify, it's called Bohemian Club, which they're a member of. Bohemian Grove is just the place that they go to celebrate, and you don't necessarily have to be a member of the club to go to the Grove. You can be a guest, and likewise, just because you're a member of the club doesn't mean you necessarily go to the Grove. It gets a little complicated, but it's like being part of a country club, essentially.
Right. A very exclusive, invite only, new members only brought on when somebody else dies. So, I mean, it's a little more than a country club, but yeah.
Right. And I believe last time I knew one person that knew someone that got an invite. And I think at that point, it wasn't as much as like Club 33 for Disney, but I think it was around like 50 or 60 grand a year just to say that you're a member of the club before you actually start paying dues on top of that.
Right. Yeah.
See what you're missing out on, Heidi? I don't think you're allowed in any of these places, are you?
I mean, I'm a girl, so they're not.
You can join Skull and Bones, but only at Yale. You can't join the one.
No, they do. It did become in the 90s. It became co-ed as well.
Oh, they're both co-ed. Okay.
Correct.
This country is going to hell in a handbasket, isn't it?
Oh, there it is. No, I'm good. But it's all in the relations. Like all these people, the Bush family, the Huntingtons, the Huntington Russell, the Tafts, all this stuff. These all go back to the same people on the Mayflower. This starts, there with the top families that came over, and they're the first families. I mean, if we look at it, they're all related through the Howland line, most of them anyway. But yeah, no big surprise to me that they said, "Hey, brother, go start another chapter in Utah."
I think it's fascinating how these secret society groups, because it only takes one person in a small group to know another one person in another small group, and now there's your connection. And it's kind of like the way a supply chain would work, or a custody chain, or anything, right? Like for example, I'm still learning about all the Mormons that have been around since forever and have infiltrated their way into all these groups and communities. And like one of the other secret societies that's always fascinated me was the Jekyll Island Hunt Club, which I think was late 1800s, early 1900s. And again, like, you throw a rock, you're going to hit a Morgan or a Rockefeller or a Rothschild proxy of some kind, or like, you're going to hit some sort of huge name that founded the country. And I wonder if there's any Mormons that were ever part of Jekyll Island Hunt Club that I just don't know of. Is it just too hot and humid, or?
We do know some that were more recent than that, in Romney's case anyway. And I don't mean Mitt, I mean his dad. He was implicated in a lot of stuff with the hunting parties. So yeah, that one's interesting. So,
and the cross-pollination is pretty crazy, because you've got these guys that are Bohemians, these guys are Skull and Bones, and the same guy is a part of the CFR and a part of the Trilateral Commission. And so you have like all of these organizations that literally they're a part of the same conspiracy. They're tentacles of the same conspiracy with the same agenda, and they're all working together. And you have this crossbreed of leaders in all of these organizations, making sure they're all working and moving towards the same direction. And then the connection with like the Jekyll Island, I don't know of his direct connection to Jekyll Island itself, but the head of the Federal Reserve for a time in the very early years was a guy by the name of Mariner Eccles. And he was definitely a eugenicist, believed in depopulation, and he wanted, to get people to support the New World Order and all those types of things, and even spoke about it at BYU.
He probably would have been invited then, because I believe at Jekyll Island they have a Federal Reserve room, which is where they all famously are proud of concocting this behind closed doors, and then snuck it in and had it voted on like December 25th or something, or like 24th, like the Christmas Eve at 11 p.m. at night or something. But they were all very proud of that. But yeah, that was all Federal Reserve related.
Yep.
Well, and God be here with the Federal Reserve gets even more interesting. And Ben definitely knows about this one. And this was something that I didn't even know about until I found Ben. This was how I found his research. So.
Do you think, I think this, so let's state what I think and get your guys' opinion on this. But Mormons having their own chapter of Skull and Bones just legitimizes Mormons more, right? Like, to me, it's not a stain on Mormons as much as it's like, look, man, they've got their own versions of Scientology. They're in, they've got temples right outside of Rome, outside the Vatican, and the popes are saying like, yeah, go ahead and build it. Like, we're cool here. And now you've got their own chapters of Skull and Bones, right? Like they've got their own version of Masonry. Every single unique like American cultural milestone, Mormons are like, we got our own version of that. We've got an internal one that you don't have to leave Provo, or you don't have to leave SLC in order to get access to all these cool commodities, right? The only thing they're missing is like a Disney World at this point.
Well, so just to be very clear, it's not like an exclusive Mormons only Skull and Bones, but because it's in Utah, I'm sure it's predominantly Mormon, but there are also people that aren't Mormon that are members of the Utah Skull and Bones.
It seems so wild to me, just because like we talk about occult and conspiracy stuff all the time, right? It's like typical for us, but to legitimately be a Mormon, like a straight up, like I go to temple all the time, I don't have facial hair Mormon, like no, what do you say, like no Jack Mormon anywhere around, no hot beverages. and then to get tapped and go into Skull and Bones and have all the Skull and Bones imagery and stuff, is it not incompatible with like a straight-laced Mormon? Like, don't you have to be a Jack Mormon to be a Skull and Bones Mormon?
So
well, that's the point. That's the point of Ben and Justin both. That's what I'll let him get to.
Because like Justin and I are both. I don't know what Justin's position. I won't speak for Justin.
Justin,
I'm a
definitely
believer
feels,
in Mormonism, and so I would say yes, you could not be a legitimate believer and go to that organization. But Mitt Romney was mentioned, and he's been involved in lots of different horrible secret societies and in lots of horrible things along those lines. And so I'm along those lines of like a Godby, where these people aren't really believing Mormons. They're more like, if you're in Utah, it's cultural, first of all. Secondly, it is one of those things where if you aren't a member of the church, it's very difficult to get prominent positions. You're not going to get elected. You know, there's different things of influence that you're not going to be able to be a part of. And so you have a lot of people that are very much the power hungry, and the people that want to be influential recognize that they need to have that little box checked. And so they remain in the church, even though they're not believers. People like John Huntsman Jr. and people like that, that are, you know, minos, like rhinos, but members in name only.
Couldn't you extend that to like even the very original founders of the church that were like shoulder to shoulder with Joseph Smith? Weren't there like a decent number of those guys that were like, I don't believe anything that this dude's talking about, but man, have you seen the coffers? Have you seen the power? So like, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, I believe in Moroni and all that other stuff. Sure, as long as like I get to put my name, you know, in the hat.
John C. Bennett
was probably one of those types of guys. I would say
John
Bennett
C.
falls into
Bennett.
that very well.
Yep, he was there for the women.
I guess that's as Mormon as you can be, right? Like there's like two paths of Mormonism. It's either you're Joseph Smith all the way, or you're kind of like playing along and leveraging what Joseph Smith started.
Yeah.
There's like more than that. There's about 20 different routes this goes, because it goes to James Strang and Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, and down in Parowan we got Onias and we got the Davis Co-op. Like this goes into too many things.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but my simple understanding so far is that there's people that like just do the Mormon lifestyle thing for the advantages and not because they actually believe Joseph Smith talked to an angel. Like no matter what they say, like there's some people that probably just don't actually believe that and they play along. And then 100%. There's people that do believe that. And then all of those other sort of denominations and all the ones that kind of like pick things apart, ultimately they do agree that it started with Joseph Smith, talked to some angels. But maybe the farther down the line you go, some of them are like, and he didn't deserve it. Like they should have talked to me and my, you know, ancestors.
Oh, they do. They talk to
this
the
idiot,
angels.
but whatever. Like we have to improve this thing that this idiot started. Like that might be a version of the believers are the ones that are critical, but they still believe that Joseph Smith talked to an angel.
Right.
They can't, but you are right. Like Onias, I mentioned Onias in Parowan, and he says he talked to angels too. And we've got a lot of people that are talking to a lot of things later on when things start splitting apart. And I mean, that's one thing. I don't love the way Brigham ruled, but he did try to quell down some of the woo-woo a little bit.
Of the crazy.
I think, yeah, he was like, look, we can't all be talking to everything all the time. Like it's too much. And so, more of an iron fist, you know.
Everyone before Brigham got grandfathered in. If you're talking to angels, it's okay, but after that, it's like no more angel. It's funny, just again, like being a Catholic. There's versions of that too, where the Pope at one point he's like, no one else is doing miracles, no one else is talking to angels. Like we got this. We'll let you know when there's a miracle or an angel. You don't tell us.
What happened. Tell you. Joseph tried. I think he was more of a pushover, but he did, you know, there was the one guy that tried to say he had a rock too. And he's like, and you talk to the devil. I can't remember who that was, but he was like, you can't talk to the angels. He did try, but.
So Ben, are you current Mo or ex-Mo or new Mo or any kind of Mo?
So I'm a believing member, but I'm not affiliated with the corporation.
Or what's the cute name for that one? Is that a new Mo?
We need to come up with one. New Mo is like a new
old
wave
school Mo.
That's more Andre.
Well, there's traditional Catholics that are pre-Vatican.
Mo. You're a
So I'm a
tradmo.
tradmo. Sure, I'll
A
go with that.
tradmo. Okay.
You're a tradmo.
That
I
I
like
don't know if the way that Heidi talks about
funny.
traditional Mormons, like I just think of the Jeff and all of his like 60,
No, not that
friends.
one. No, that's another.
I wouldn't
That's
consider
not
that to be traditional
Tradmo. That
Mormon,
sounds like
so, yeah.
Tradmo.
No, he's not Tradmo.
He's a wannabe Tradmo,
whack-a-mo.
but he's
a
got his own
whack-a-mo.
sick power
Okay,
trips.
he's a whack-a-mo. I like that.
He's a
He's a whack-a-mo. There you
whack-a-mo. He can't be a Tradmo. He got way crazy. No way.
Okay, no, I like that. Okay, so we've got Tradmos now too. The vocabulary
like
is
it.
building. There's so many versions of Mos.
After 4 years, we better have more versions or we're just not keeping up. I mean,
And we've
it's
got
been like-
Skullmos now,
Yeah.
apparently.
ScoMo. I like it.
So
Well, and that's the thing. There's so many of them that are affiliated. Like, okay, you joked about vampires, but I dare say, the only other guy I know that wanted pints of Mormon blood was Howard Hughes. And his doctors got
and
arrested
Jeff
for it.
Epstein.
Right. And so his buddy, though, who was he still in the blood for? Originally, the OG guy was Howard Hughes, and they called him a vampire. And they can joke all they want about whether or not that was real for Epstein. We don't know, but we do know for Howard Hughes because they got arrested.
Was he drinking
Because you
or was he
can't-
just doing a transfusion?
We can't prove any of that, but
Okay.
his doctors went to jail for actually making sure it went over state lines. He couldn't just get the blood there. It had to be from Utah. It was this weird, they say it's segregation. So I don't know. They had,
Maybe they were
labeled
making
the
sure
blood
that didn't have
white
drugs
or
or alcohol
colored.
in it or something.
I think he was racist, but
Okay.
Either way you go, who knows what they're doing with it. But I will say this, all of that stuff, we always get these people that are so strange affiliated with these, Sabbatean Mos. That's what they are to me. Anyway, they're the weird Mos that are just, bringing about the Lord's time on their own, I guess. Sabbateans. Yeah. I don't know.
weird Mos.
Weird Mos.
I wonder, because in Freemasonry, for example, there's oaths that are supposed to take precedent over other oaths. It's supposed to take precedent over religious oaths or political oaths. Like, for example, one of the oldest Masonic stories that'll usually come up in these lines is that, and during the Civil War, there was these two guys that came across each other. They made Masonic signs, and they realized, oh, our Masonic connection supersedes whatever Civil War thing's going on. Like, it's above anything else happening. So I don't know how true that is, but it's an example that comes up over the time. So I'm just wondering if you've got a Mormon who's also, I guess, quasi-Mason a little bit, and then they're also going to be Skull and Bones, or they're also going to be any of these other groups. But let's just say Skull and Bones as an example. Like, what takes precedent? Is it like whatever one is the hardest to get into takes precedent? So I guess Skull and Bones takes precedent over Masonry, takes precedent over Mormonism?
Well, because I don't think that they're actual believers, and so I don't think that the covenants that they make are anything that they hold with any seriousness within Mormonism. And so I would say that they put the covenant that they made at Skull and Bones or in Freemasonry above anything that they did, because both of those organizations would be antithesis to what they believed.
Well, and the point is, we have these different branches inside the church that have overtaken the church. Like he says the corporation, Justin says the corporation.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can see it from a mile. There, the Pace papers brought a lot of weird stuff to light, just like the Epstein papers are now, or files, whatever. And we just see all of this stuff constantly, and it's obviously not conducive with any way that they are supposed to live, which is Justin's point, but also it's still happening. So we know clearly that there's some big power shakers and movers there.
Yeah.
Speaking of big power shakers, what's the current temperature read on like the Mormon relation to the Charlie Kirk thing? Was it an inside job? Was there Mormon influence? Was it just an absolute fluke coincidence that it happened and just happened there? Or is it what's the word on the street? The Mormon.
I haven't actually heard a connection myself.
Oh, I've heard some.
Oh, I'm sure Heidi's heard more than I have.
Yeah, I've heard TPUSA is completely in bed with Mormon Corporation. So, but it didn't surprise me. So it's all of them. I always say that, but it's not. When I say it's all of them, I don't mean all of the people all of the time. I mean, it's the elites of each group, right? Like the 1%ers, like the old biker group, 1% most. That's what.
Well, here's a good example. Skull and Bones is one of my favorite examples of this. But the chance of even being in Skull and Bones is such a tiny, minuscule number of people. Yet the number of presidents that have been Skull and Bones, not just that, but what was it the 2000 and I'm just gonna make up a number, 2004 election?
It was
It was
2004.
Kerry and Bush, right? And
Yep.
they're both members of Skull and Bones. Just if you were to plot that out mathematically, the chances for that to happen just coincidentally, it's impossible. It is literally impossible. So therefore, it seems that the best way for you to actually have a chance of becoming president would be to start by trying to get as a member of Skull and Bones, try and get tapped in there. Because I also understand that if you get in there, some people get tapped because they're legacy, some people get tapped because it's powerful and advantageous. But they also have quotas. I think they have to tap like a male cheerleader once a year, and they have to like tap someone that plays like an instrument. Like they have like these, at least they used to, according to the Anthony Sutton book and according to the Chris Milligan, I think it was Fleshing Out Skull and Bones. But they both make these nods that in addition to like the legacies, they also have like 4 or 5 like fun picks, like someone that would otherwise never come across any of these people in their lives. It's like now he gets to be in the club too.
Yeah. So, and it's not just because we need a cheerleader or a science major or whatever it is. It's they're looking for people that in those fields, they're looking for people that excel within that because it's not just like trying to fill a quota like, hey, we need another woman on this thing. Go find somebody that'll say yes to us. Each person that they tap is someone that will be a benefit to them. And so just because they weren't legacy, but they are in one of these different veins that they're trying to tap into, pun not intended, or that they are, they're not just randos within those fields. There are people that would be able, have shown that they would be somebody that would be successful later on in life. And so, because they don't want just some slacker, they don't want some loser as a part of their organization, that they want people that are going to be a benefit to them. And so yes, they do want people from those other things, but it's a little bit more complicated than just, hey, we go grab a football player and bring him in.
Fair point. And then you also mentioned when we first started joking about the coffins. So I have to keep going back to the Skull and Bones coffins, right? But since Epstein just came up and we're talking secret societies, the coffin thing to me, if you get beyond the pineal gland and all the weird sexual stuff, but really it kind of represents them airing their dirty laundry in a way that can come back and be used as blackmail against them. It's sort of like this voluntary, hey, here's a bunch of like really nasty and profane things that I've done, and you can write them down and save them in the tomb or whatever, and that way everyone here knows that everyone else has got something over me, so therefore I'm giving you a little bit of power so that you can hold it over me. And it's almost like that's the entry, like that's the price you pay to get into the club, is for them to have something on you. So I mean, that's kind of what Epstein is, right? Like if you got videotaped on his island in a basement, now you're part of the club. If you get someone writes down in a diary what you talk about in the coffin, now you're part of the Skull and Bones. What Heidi's described of going to temple as like a kid, and they're like, tell me about all your dirty, dreams or whatever. It almost seems like
Not temple.
They start. What is
that's
it?
when you go to talk to
like,
the bishop
down and they get you to like describe like and I guess Catholics have it too, like you go to confession, right? All these seem like the same thing, like over and over again. Like one of them is in a secret society for fraternities and older people, but there's versions of that in all these different walks of life where you get you kind of get like normalizing telling people your dirty laundry so they can have something to hold on top of you.
Well, I think that comparison you just made is the important one, because too many people are saying it was just that these guys were just perverts and that he was using this footage to get them to do things for him. And that's not what it was at all, from what I've been able to tell from the documents. It's more what you're saying. They enter into this as with Skull and Bones and with Epstein, completely and totally religiously dedicated to the cause, and they give them something over them to ensure that they're always religiously dedicated to the cause. They're not doing favors for their bosses simply because they don't want to get exposed. They want to do favors for their bosses in both instances. And it's only there as like something happens where they have a change of heart later on in life, and it's to ensure that they don't. It's reminds me of the made-for-TV movie back in the late 70s called you'll remember
Brotherhood
it,
of the
Heidi.
Bell?
Brotherhood of the Bell. Thank you.
Brotherhood of the Bell.
And that's the Brother of the Bell. I think that's exactly what we're talking about. It's none of those people were stuck in these positions doing what they were doing because they didn't want to get exposed. They were religiously dedicated to what they were doing.
Well, and here's my question. Like I've postulated this before with the Epstein files. It comes up again, and I know this is a really out there theory for you, probably, Ben, but this is just a thought with me. The salamander stories, we've talked about this salamander and the frog and all the things with Hoffman and whatever before Thomas. So my question to you is, I told you I thought that they kind of orchestrated that to a point because they knew it was coming out. They could change the reality of it by having it changed into a salamander, which is better than a frog. And it did. It changed it. And it also made it crazy. So now anytime somebody says, that they believe that salamanders or a frog talked to Joseph Smith, which is in the paperwork, is in the Joseph Smith papers, people will say, that's stupid. That was Mark Hoffman. He's a murderer. Oh, so what if they just did that with Epstein? And they're like, yeah, put all the weirdest shit ever in there that we did. We don't care. Put everything bad in there, because then they're just going to go, that's crazy. You're so crazy. And so, I'm just saying. That's
possible. I think it's beyond that they know, because they control the DOJ. They control the FBI. They control every level of government, every mechanism that would hold them accountable. And so they know, they're like, well, there's nobody, unless people want to start getting guillotines, there's literally nothing that anybody's going to do to them.
Well, they had to have known. What was in there. But I think they let it fly. I think it was a grand revelation of the method, because I've literally seen some people having almost breakdowns over this stuff. I work in mental health. Like, people are not all that great right now. And they're like, everything I ever heard about this crazy thing is true. And we're ran by this crazy situation. And I'm like, yeah. yeah. All of us that have been there, we just all go, yeah. And then everybody else is having the moment we had whenever we had it, but it was gradual, right? We didn't get baptism by fire to bam, like, oh my gosh, like babies and blood and things and crazy. And like, I couldn't have handled that all at once. Like, it was a trickle at a time. Yeah, that wasn't.
What's crazy though is that, and not to just get all like ranty media and stuff, but like the media is making it super easy. If you want to ignore all this, they're making it very easy to ignore, right? It's not like they're beating you over the head with it like it were almost any other hot topic that they beat you over the head with. Right. This is the one thing they're like, oh, if you don't really care, we're not going to put it on the front page. Maybe we'll sneak it in like page 12 if you really care about it.
Yep.
You got to dig. Yeah. You got to, look at how hard they made them. Way worse than the JFK drop, and they were bad enough. Like, this is like 10 times worse than that. And you just step back and go, gosh, is this even worth the 10,000 hours I'm going to spend and have my eyeballs strained into oblivion? Like, it's crazy trying to go through those papers.
And what's insane is a couple million pages. I can't remember the exact number is, but there was a new report that just came out that said they've actually only released, they've claimed that they've claimed to release everything, but they were able to prove that they've actually only released 2%.
Boy, if that's the easy 2%, we're in deep shit. People are going to lose their minds.
I believe that. Jeffrey Epstein's hanging out with 15 and 16-year-old girls, hundreds of them, and they're probably texting like
younger. They've got
thousands of times a day, right?
They've got 8-year-olds on there.
So he's probably got 3 million in just text alone.
Right.
Well, the babies, the thing about the babies that I think people are like missing too is that everybody's so freaked out about the sexual stuff. And I'm like, okay, the sexual stuff is scary, but here's the bigger problem. The transhumanism part of this is terrifying. It's like terrifying to me.
Oh, they're talking about cloning. Like they've already done it. They're like, oh, you need to clone yourself? Just send me a couple $1 million and we'll go take care of that.
Well, did you see the intersex stuff they were mentioning on here? That's what we have to call it now. But back in the day, you know what I'm talking about here? No.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. It was someone sending it to Jeffrey and he read it. It wasn't him saying it to them. Yeah, it was.
But they said it. They had done it. They're like, "Oh, this girl has the thickest beard ever," and I'm like, "Wait a minute. That means they're freaking older. This means they're old now. That they created these people and then they grew up, and they're old now." And it goes back to Clonade in the early 2000s, saying, "Yeah, we made a baby. We made lots of babies. Her name is Eve."
I think that email too. They were like making fun of female to male transitioners, and they were basically like, oh, everyone wants a male to female, no one wants the female to male. I just thought it was funny the way that they were like they were like, look, we're progressive, right? We're pushing this progressive agenda, but then they're also like, ew, like these female to males, ew.
Well, the thing that I thought was horrible is I don't care what anybody wants to do over the age of 18. You can do that. But to create somebody that way and mess with them before birth, like that's atrocious.
So I missed this part.
Okay.
Are they talking about like hermaphrodites or what are you talking about?
They were creating hermaphrodites by like injecting them with certain amounts of testosterone and all this stuff. But they grew up because they had beards. So they were like, yeah, we created it. And now they have these great beards. And I'm like, what? Like that means you're older now.
They were like ahead of the curve. So whatever's happening now in like schools in the 2020s, it was happening on Epstein's island in like the 90s.
But they were creating fetuses this way. And then you start looking at those pickled punks and all the weird stuff. The homunculus.
The island of Dr. Moreau type stuff going on.
I am dead serious. Like that stuff scares me far more than any other corruption. Cause we all know at the very top level of satanic weirdness, like, or you can minus Satan, like people can get really shitty. Okay. That's just the truth. So if you go down the worst horror movie you've ever seen, like we all know we could go, yep, I get it. I saw Ed Gein. Yeah, I saw that. He made a lamp. Like we know that those type of people do exist, like psychologically. But
they're in charge of us. We didn't know that.
Right. But then on top of it, they're creating it. What the hell else are they making in there? Right. What kind of diabolical shit's going on in that lab? That's scary to me.
Just a little bit of ping pong and pizza. Nothing crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Jish.
That's just a conspiracy theory, bro.
I know. We should have brought our tinfoil hats.
That'll be the next one, right? First it's gonna be like, oh, we didn't believe Lolita Express. It just sounded too crazy. Then it's gonna be like, oh, we didn't believe about James Elefantis and the basement. That was just too crazy too.
So many people are like, wow, like I can't deal with this. Like I'm taking care of them. So currently, nurse under fire. Like I'm telling you, people aren't okay. So if it's only 2%. The world's going to burn down.
You know what it is too, though? The second you find out that Skull and Bones rules the world or that Jeffrey Epstein was running a blackmail program, none of that information makes your mortgage any cheaper. Like it doesn't like get you to your job any faster. Like it literally serves no useful purpose in a functioning society for you to know this. If at best it like makes you a little bit crazier, right? Because now you're like it'll gonna eat at you, and you're gonna like be thinking about this thing that has nothing to do with like the normal reality that we all have to share. Even though it is reality, the fact that you acknowledge it makes you like removed from reality. It's so weird.
For me, it's a little bit different. Like to me, it's like, oh, that means I have to do something. We should do things differently. Like all these people are like, oh, that means we got to vote harder next time and get these Democrats out or these Republicans out. I'm like, you got to be out of your mind. Like, we got to stop obeying these people. We got to stop paying these people. Like, are we not willing to risk like everything to stop people that are doing this to children? To me, that just says we have to stand up more. That sure, I've still got to, function and pay my bills and get my groceries. But the way that we react to government and the people that are telling us like what needs to be taught to our kids, or who's going to be allowed in our bathrooms, and those types of things. Like the fact that we're just going to continue living life as if it's Republican Democrat anymore is, to me, just mind-boggling.
The whole thing is, it's terrifying. And the fact that, you can give examples of where this is infiltrated all the way up, with Gong, like what does he belong to? The CFR, like what?
Council of Foreign Relations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and before that, things he
only.
did for China and the things that he said about China and supporting Mao and things along those lines. These guys are supporting it's all connected. I've talked about this before. These aren't conspiracies. This is one conspiracy with multiple tentacles, and they are making sure that they are intervening themselves into every aspect of our life. And so we've got to stop. We've got to stop putting up with it. We've got to be willing to stop paying for it. We've got to be willing to stop getting permission to feed our families, and stop getting permission to have employment or to make money, and all the things that we're asking these satanic pedophiles for. We got to stop doing it. That's just crazy. I can't imagine God not holding us accountable, saying you knew he was doing X, Y, and Z, and you still gave him money. You still asked him permission. Like there's some accountability going on right now.
Usually I'm kind of the optimist whenever like weird things come up on here. This is one area though I have just zero optimism in, and I don't want to be like, I'm not a black like doomsdayer or a black pillar, but really it's like, if you start peeling back the onion on Epstein, my first go-to is like, oh, if that upsets you, pull up this little guy called Larry Franklin, right? The Franklin scandal, or Larry King, Lawrence King of the Franklin scandal. Pull that one up. Pull up the Finders example with David Petty, I think it was, and see his connections of like these high elite DC and intelligence groups. Like, it just, as far back as you can go, there's always been one of these groups doing these exact same things, and it's never been just a random group of bumpkins. It's never been a bunch of dumb Ed Geins, right? It always seems like they are movers and shakers and people that own power. And I'm not going to say Ed Gein had like any kind of powerful connection, but I feel that there's plenty of Ed Geins out there that don't get caught because like their daddy, donated $100,000 to the university or whatever the reason is.
Well, and the overlap, again, like I talked about earlier, the overlap between the evil that is going on with Epstein, of the torture, the eating, all of those types of things, those same names are mentioned over with the Franklin cover-up. And so it's one conspiracy. These aren't a bunch of different groups that are popping up. They're like, ooh, we've got this weird little fetish going on here. No, these are the tentacles of the same beast with individuals that have crossover.
Great point. Because I remember when Franklin cover-up started getting a little bit more traction, like the 90s and 2000s, because of Conspiracy Silence documentary. Yeah. But it started to take a very hard, like, oh, it's all Republicans. Lawrence King was a Republican, and George Bush was a Republican, and Bohemian Grove were mostly Republicans. But if you actually read John DeCam's book on it, he's also calling out Barney Frank. He's calling out all sorts of other establishment Democrats. It was definitely
Barney Frank is also in the Epstein files.
Barney Frank's in the Epstein files too?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't really surprise me, right? He had like a callboy boyfriend that he paid for his apartment for like 2 decades that pretty much everyone knew about in DC. So except for the voters.
He's actually getting a letter of recommendation to Epstein for a guy he wants to have join the Council on Foreign Relations. That's
again, I mean, another analogy that I think is really good for the whole thing, like, you want to have blackmail on you with Epstein. The NXIVM cult. I think the NXIVM cult was the best example of this one, because and this is the one with David Raniere and the chick from the Superman show. Yeah. That like went to jail. But in order for you to get into that inner circle, you had to show up and have like a videotape of you doing something horrible and a letter that you've written to like your friends and family that's like, hey mom, it's me, like I hate you and whatever. Like it had like all these horrible things, and you would give that to them so that they would let you in. It's not like they had to catch you doing something bad, behind a closed door. It was
you
like
set up your own blackmail.
Yeah, you show up with your own blackmail. And I feel like Jeffrey Epstein was another version of that. Just for them, they were like, oh, it's a fun version. Like there's jet skis involved.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of stuff involved and there's a lot of people involved. And this is the point is, and I think I was misunderstood there when I said, I don't care if you're over 18. Look, we all have choices in life. We all have to answer for ourselves after we become adults. That's what I mean by that comment. Like I always joke around and say, if you want to go be naked in the woods and do a seance, if nobody's getting hurt and no animals or children are being hurt, and that's whatever. Okay. That's not as offensive to me as people that are being hurt, and there are people that are obviously above adult age that could be manipulated. There's 1,000 different ways to play this, but at some point we have to cut a time frame off and say, okay, we have to protect kids because they don't have anybody else to help them. They're defenseless, right?
Well, especially in these cases, it's their parents that are the ones bringing them into it.
Right. And so that's what I mean.
The cutoff is when you stop believing in Santa. That's when we stop protecting you.
No, that's bad.
Innocence gone. You're not even worth saving anymore.
Oh wow. Man, I hope it's not then. He's kidding, Ben.
I know. It's dark.
But yeah, I agree. I think that we have to definitely, especially these kids that if they are literally cloning, creating beings to be whatever they want them to be, like what kind of a choice of life is that for those people? Like that's awful to me because now you're in a whole nother level of like you're playing God. And
did you see the email between him and I can't remember, Katie Couric and Prince Andrew talking about the clones and how they're going to clone them without a head because Andrew was worried about if it had a conscience or not.
We're back to the homunculus. I am telling you this. Well, you know whose fault that is. That is your fault. Directly your fault, Thomas. That damn Book of the Cow. Listen, I've never been okay since then. But it was good. Still, go watch that episode.
And that one, see, everyone gets obsessed with the temple on Little St. James, right? With like the Turkish bathhouse temple. But man, Zorro Ranch is 1,000,000 times creepier than the bathhouse.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Is where if you want to get into the weird like magical homunculus stuff, that's where you would go and summon an actual demon. Would be out in the middle of a desert, not in the middle of the tropical island. That was the fun version. The Zorro Ranch, like no one's got jet skis in Zorro Ranch. You're not having as much fun there as you are off on like the cruise island.
Well, and they're saying it's a dumb, right? It's like an underground base type situation, like it's tunneled, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, look at the people.
And I'm not buying that the new owner is turning it into a Christian,
no way.
Safe haven.
No. I don't buy any, but of course I think everyone's a serial killer until I'm proved otherwise.
They have the Mormon bull thing underground under Zorro Ranch. What do they call it?
Oh. He's talking about the baptismal font, but I'm sure they have some kind of
underground under Zorro Ranch.
Well, probably some kind of Canaanite one. Yes. I mean, it really relates to this. You said, okay, since the beginning of time, I couldn't have agreed more because I've been doing deep research into history, and here comes John D again. He's my good friend. He keeps popping up and everything. He's actually one of my great uncles sometime down the line. Creepy. So it goes back to this weird Celtic stuff. And what were they? A brotherhood, just like Skull and Bones. What was it? It's an ancient druidic cult. And it gets weird. I can't.
Well, prior to the Illuminati, you had the Hellfire clubs that were the same exact thing, and the same people that went from there went to the Illuminati and so on.
You're right.
The analogy I'm starting to put together is that these Hellfire clubs and Illuminatis and stuff, it was basically just like rich people that wanted to read about magic and read about taboo things that if you were poor, you'd get killed over. But if you were rich, you kind of had a shield. You could be like, oh, it's academic, or oh, I've got access to this library. So it kind of started turning into the things they were pursuing would be things that would be considered witchcraft or dark arts or black magic, just because it got lumped into this. But because they're all getting lumped into that, it's like, well, sure, why not dabble in a little bit of these, really actual dark arts, since everything's getting grouped into this anyways, right?
I think that they're actual Satanists. I think that they're dedicated to Satan, and that these are the things that they're trying to do to serve him and to get closer to him.
I feel that you're right. I think that you're actually absolutely correct on that. However, I wonder, like, the actual origins of, say, the Illuminati, Bavarian Illuminati, and Adam Weishaupt.
Yeah.
My impression is that Adam Weishaupt was not a bloodthirsty Satanist. If anything, he was a staunch atheist. And he just hated religion of any kind. No, he was not.
If you read Proofs of a Conspiracy, or the the history illustrating memoirs illustrating the history of Jacobinism, he was not an atheist. You don't hate something you don't know. I don't hate Zeus. I don't go around making they hated it because they did believe in it, and they wanted to serve the enemy of God. And so if you look at the different levels, when you got to the top level of the Jacobins as well as the Illuminati, they were outright Satanists, and that was
they would make you'd have to profane the cross, or you'd have to like pee on something or do something horrible to prove that you had no respect for Christianity. I'm not trying to carry water for Adam Weishaupt.
You've already gone against Christ, and then you go and you serve Satan.
Well, that's Sabbatean. We're getting into the Sabbatean movement once again, and I mean, he's just one of many, but I'm just saying.
I just want to be clear. I'm not carrying water for Adam Weishaupt, but I guess my understanding, I understand the Satanist angle. My understanding was that also he was so upset with the Jesuits that had controlled academia for 2 centuries that it was almost like the kid that has to go to Catholic school for 15 years, and it's like, I hate God now, I hate Christ, because he got forced to do that. I wonder if any part of that was Adam Weishaupt was just like, I hate Jesuits so much that now I just hate all God and all religion, or if he was truly groomed by like his uncle, I think, that raised him. He was groomed from his uncle to be like, haha, we're gonna be secret Satanists, just wait another 15 years and then we're going to, enact the devil's plan on the rest of the world.
I think it's both of those, because you have the fact that I think what you're talking about with his youth was allowed him to be recruited, because if you look at the structure and the rituals of those 2 organizations, they are just almost indistinguishable between those from the Hellfire Club and other Satanist organizations. And so it's not like he just made something up because he hated God. These are all continuations of these ancient satanic organizations.
Yep, I agree. I don't know if Satan would be like just the only piece of that puzzle. Like, there were many that they served. Like, I just think that this is all fallen angel, satanic, of course, but it's dark. It's dark. There's always, we've got the dark with the light. It's always going to be that way. But the point, we're supposed to have balance. We're not supposed to be like raging lunatics, but some people have something in them. I think that they just can't not. And if that door gets opened, it's that whole Pandora's box, you can't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask Ben, have you got like a book or a documentary, or like which you got going on that we can plug and promote for you?
Yeah. So again, I mentioned earlier, this is kind of the main thing that's shown the history of how the international conspiracy has gotten into all of our communities. It's how these organizations that we're talking about, how they, the specific examples of how they come in, and how they operate, and so that we can identify them. And it's much easier to blame people far away and say, oh, that's over in DC, that's over in New York, and not recognize that, hey, right here in Orlando or right here in Salt Lake, we have the same thing happening. And it's the same it's the same beast, and they've got their tentacles in my town. And then that, relevant to this podcast specifically is my Dallin H. Oaks report showing his ties to the Communist Party from his college days all the way to today. And so encourage folks to check those books out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Amazon actually banned this one. So if you want this, you got to go to barnesandnoble.com.
Did they
And,
give you a reason? Do they say why?
It's a great book, by the way.
They said it violated their policy, their community policy. But they didn't say specifically what violated their. There's no swears. No nudity,
it was their brotherhood
no
policy.
Blood. So there's no there's no reason other than it's exposing things that have never been exposed before.
And I read this book, his first book. It's great. I can vouch for this book. It was really well researched. You know me, I'm going to check facts. Ben brings facts.
Tons of footnotes at the bottom of each page. So
I love facts, man. I can tell you were bringing them today, helping patch the gaps and everything. So any expert on Skull and Bones is a friend of mine. I can't wait for you to find out whatever the third chapter was. Whenever you
Wouldn't
find
that be cool?
the third chapter, let us know. We'll have you come back on and talk even more about it.
Okay, awesome.
Heidi, what you got? You got any shows you've been on lately? Any other?
Yeah, I just got back from Las Vegas. Yeah, I just got back from doing a live in studio show. So I will be on soon. Yeah, I don't know. He hasn't announced anything yet, but with Apollo. And so I don't know if you know his channel, but
he's the sun god, is he not?
I mean, not that one particularly, but yeah. Apollo, the original, I think is what it's under. But yeah, we met up there. I was like, hey, yeah, that sounds great. Vegas isn't too far to drive. So we met halfway, and it was also a great time to go have our Valentine's early. So I also went to every museum I could get my hands on that had to do with Howard Hughes or any of the mob or all the. It'll be coming. I have a whole bunch of slides and everything for people. So it's fun.
One of my favorite places to go in all of Vegas. It's not cool like Howard Hughes or anything, but there is a pinball museum that whenever I go to Vegas,
I love pinball.
I lose at least a full day there. It is one of the best museums ever. And you just pay like one entry and you just can play as many pinball games as you want.
Oh man. So. I love pinball. I do not like video games, but I love pinball.
They got them all. So next time there's another reason to go.
That sounds fun.
That sounds good to me.
I'll do my plugs. I've got a cool little Paranoid American sampler. So if you haven't checked out any of my comics before, I think I got like 10 left in a box in the next room. But it's got a little occult calendar, and it's got a comic on MK Ultra, one on the Bavarian Illuminati, and one on how to create your own alchemical homunculus that I did with Juan Ayala, that guy that like dropped off the face of the earth. Who knows what happened to that guy? He got kidnapped.
Yeah.
Rude. So go to paranoidamerican.com, grab yourself a little sampler pack. They're like $20, free shipping, everything included. And stay tuned for the next episode of Monthly Mormon, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't know. We don't really know when the next one's going to be, but appreciate you guys hanging out with us. And we'll see you for the next one.
Thank you. Good to see you.
See you guys.
Paranoid. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane paper, the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real, the real, you will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hey, maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blood smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Man, it's not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.